It's the SKOR North Twin Show.
SKOR North Extra Innings, where we hate the New York Yankees. Twins get swept by New York today after a 3-game dismal series where Carlos Correa summed it up perfectly. I just came up from the clubhouse, and he said, sometimes you look like the best team in baseball, and sometimes you absolutely suck. That is the exact quote from the Twin shortstop, Carlos Correa. That kind of sums up the last 3 games against the New York Yankees. This is SKOR North Extra Innings. My name's Declan Goff. That is Ross Brendel. Let's talk about this sweep here, Ross, because I had AJ on for the other 2 Extra Innings episodes, and I don't feel this, but it is going to sound a little perplexing and probably a little hypocritical for some to hear. I don't feel the nervous vibe per se about playing the Yankees. Like, I didn't get that vibe from the fans. Now, granted, I'm not sitting amongst the fans. I'm not sitting with a couple beers in hand, watching Aaron Judge destroy baseballs and watching, conversely, Alex Kirilloff and Willie Castro drop baseballs. But I don't get the nervous vibe. But I will say the ass kickings still remain. And I think that is what's very frustrating for Twins fans to see after playing such great baseball in all facets today, or this series as a whole. No hitting, horrible fielding. Actually, I don't think the pitching was as bad as the other 2, but still just a classic Twins-Yankees meltdown of a series.
Yeah, and I think the defense let Joe Ryan down a little bit today, as did the offense. The offense, Declan, hasn't scored a run in 26 innings. That's a problem. You're not going to win many baseball games if you haven't scored a run since we're recording this on Thursday. The Twins haven't scored a run since the first inning on Tuesday.
That is correct. It depends on if you want to say 27 innings or not, because, I mean, they did hit one in the first inning, so I guess it's a 26 innings regardless, though. Yeah, 1 run. That was the first thing in the bottom of the first, and since then, no runs. Let's
clean it up. Let's make it easier for 2 guys who struggle with math. They've scored 1 run in 3 games. They've been outscored. Also, this sounds bad, they're only outscored 14-1. You did enough to win a game or 2 in this series if you could just hit the ball a little bit. Yeah, but the butt kickings by the Yankees, it's a little head scratching. Hat tip to Brad Carlson. He's been a longtime supporter of everything SKOR North, and even going back to 1500 ESPN. As of 2 days ago, a complete season against the Yankees. Did you see this stat?
I love you have the post-it note to remember.
I had to write this down, yeah. Well, I could have even just pulled up the X or the tweet, but I'm far too old school for that. Over a 162-game stretch, including the playoffs, going back, I think it was to 2004. Might have been 2002. I should just pull it up. 44-118. If you tack on the 2 losses since then, 44-120. I mean, that's incredible. And I know that the Yankees have always been the Yankees, and the Twins, for the most part, have been a pretty good, not great baseball team in that stretch. It's still kind of incredible. You think you'd show up and win more than 44 times over a 20-year stretch. But I don't know how to parse this one, Declan. I know when we last potted, it was a Sunday afternoon, and you had talked about, I think, best case scenario, they would go 4-2, I think, over the 6-game stretch with the Yankees and Guardians. Mm-hmm. And my thought was, I agree with you, 4-2 would be great. Even if you could go 3-3, I think I'd be fine. I don't even think that 2-4 is worst case scenario, but 2-4 factoring in there would have been, well, you at least won a game against both teams. Well, now just to make the week serviceable or salvageable, Declan, you got to take 2 out of 3 from Cleveland. I mean, I don't think there's no such thing as a must win in mid to late May. But man, if you can't take 2 out of 3, that's a really bad week, especially after you did so much to get yourself back in the mix, and then you go to Cleveland and they add a game or potentially even more to their lead on first place. Might be good for the team to get out of town, though, and go take on a division foe. But again, this Yankees thing, you thought they were maybe a little bit past it last year when maybe it took an act of God or Congress to win the season series.
Yeah.
And a bit of a down Yankees team. It would have been really nice to come back and at least win 1 game at home, because now the next time you see them, you'll be on the road at a place you historically have fared very poorly in, although you've fared poorly against them at Target Field. But it's a long-winded way around, Declan, of saying I don't know what to make of it, other than it sounds bad, but it's just at this point, it's just kind of expected. Cross them off the list, move on, go win 2 out of 3 from Cleveland, and we'll deal with the Yankees when we see them later this season. Or, Declan, when we see them again in the playoffs.
Yeah, that also is very possible too. Over the 3 games, 1 run, 14 hits, I believe 22 strikeouts for the offense. Let's stick on the offense here for just a little bit before we get to the miserable attempt at the defensive side of baseball. It really looks like Trevor Larnach, who has been dealing with an injury issue for the last few weeks. That's why he's been DHing a lot. Today, it looked like he was severely limited in his mobility, and that's why he continues to DH. I don't know. I didn't get confirmation if an IL stint is coming. I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be maybe a couple roster moves in general. Byron Buxton is playing in St. Paul, which, by the way, you can get your tickets at stpaulsaintsbaseball.com, proud sponsor of the SKOR North Twin Show, where he'll be DHing today, and then he'll probably be traveling to Cleveland at some point. I don't know if that dude's – he's not going to be on my Sun Country flight tomorrow, but I don't know how he'll get to Cleveland this weekend. But at the same time, with Larnach dealing with issues, with Austin Martin, could be a candidate to get sent down. Yeah, if Larnach goes to the IL, Kirilloff has struggled a bit too. There might just be a few weird roster moves that happen here before we start baseball again in Cleveland. But in general, the offense completely disappeared outside of a Ryan Jeffers home run in Game 1. And it reminded you a lot of the offense that you saw in the first about 18 games of the season where they just couldn't hit at all. And they have to wake up I thought the pitching was fine in this series for the most part.
Yeah, it was.
It was their offense that was just terrible. Just 3 hits today, so that obviously is not going to cut it.
And I think 4 hits last night, so 7 hits in 2 games, the last 2 games. I don't have the numbers from Tuesday right in front of me. But, yeah, I mean, I guess that's the disappointing thing about this series. In theory, the Twins were in every game, right? Or at least the pitching kept them in every game, and they could have won 1, 2, if not all 3 of the games. I'm interested to see how long or how little does this carry over into Cleveland? The Twins have historically played fairly well in Cleveland. I think would it be a neutral ballpark? Declan, you might have some stats in front of you or know some things off the top of your head about that park. But the Twins have always fared pretty well at the artist formerly known as Jacobs, maybe still Progressive Field. I
think it's Progressive. I think it's still Progressive Field.
Still Progressive. So we'll see. But bottom line, I don't want to poo-poo or shoo these games away, but at a certain point, you just got to move on and hope that the next time you see him, things are better. But, Declan, I don't know what to make of the offense having these stretches. But at this point, we're now a couple years into this pattern where I think it's just going to happen. It's really unfortunate when it happens against a team that you're probably going to see again when games really matter. And again, I still do believe, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm kidding myself, I still do believe the Twins are a playoff team. At last check, I haven't looked in a couple days. Right now, 2 teams from this division would be in the playoffs, and I get it. There's still 66% of the season left. But at some point, Declan, this Minnesota Twins team has to go from being really good against the teams that they're better than, pretty good against the teams that they're equal to, but pretty porous against the teams that are better than them in the standings. Judd and I were talking just in the hallways here earlier today, Declan. It's not like the Yankees are the first good team that's worked them this year. Baltimore did it. So that to me is the part that's maybe a little bit alarming, but also there's still 4 months to go. And in reality, Declan, there's 2.5 months for Derek Falvey to do his thing and try and manipulate and massage the roster. So I'm not going to lose my head over losing these 3 games to the Yankees, other than it is just really annoying and borderline stupid that anytime they beat the Yankees, you feel like you stole it. It would be nice just to win a game
convincingly,
comfortably and dominantly. There was a series a couple of years ago. I watched the Royals go to Yankee Stadium and win 2 out of 3, and they ran them off the field both times. I'd love for the Twins to do that one of these times.
Yeah, Twins entered today with an 88% chance to make the postseason. That's according to Baseball Reference. So, I mean, they're still in the driver's seat. They're still going to have a decently favorable schedule. Yeah, I do think there's a gap between Baltimore and they saw the Dodgers here, obviously, who are clearly in a class of their own. And they're not as good as those top teams. But you really just I'm going to use the classic cliche because we've seen this happen now a bajillion times. Those Dodgers teams have gotten bounced in the divisional round the last 2 years. A Texas Rangers team that everyone wanted to play. Judd was pontificating for the Twins to play the Rangers, and the Rangers win the whole damn thing and win the World Series, right? So by the time it gets to October, things will change. But I won't fight anyone that says that, hey, the Birds and the Dodgers and some of these other really good teams of baseball, the Braves, I'll throw in there too. There is a huge gap between them, but the Twins, they're not as bad as the worst teams in baseball. They're probably a fringe playoff team right now in terms of the pecking order of how you would rank those power ranking teams. They're on the lower tier, but in general, stretches like this are going to happen. You hate to see it happen against the Yankees, and that's why I tried to bring home the point in the Dex Plan 2.0 of take the series against the Yankees, not because you really need 2 out of 3 or 3 wins against them. It's for the morale factor. It's for the PTSD factor to get over. And unfortunately, we have sunk back into hell, a phrase I used earlier this season about the Twins.
Update us on Declan's 2.0. Where are we at now? I think, was it heading into the series, they needed to only win 1 or 2 games over the next 6 to be okay, but now they're going to challenge your math a little bit. They're going to have to get some work done in Cleveland.
Yeah, in the Dex 2.0 plan, it started against the Red Sox here 2 weekends ago. I said go 9-7. And up until then, I believe the Twins I think they were coming into the series 7-3. Is that correct here? You're making me do math. You're making me do math here, Ross. 2 plus 3 is 5 plus 2. Okay, they were 7 and they had 7 wins and 3 losses.
Okay.
So they were 7-3 coming into the last 6 games. So
we need 2 out of 3. We need 2 out of 3 in Cleveland.
You need 2 out of 3 to continue on my path here to at least get those wins. But the vibes and morale was take the series against New York and Cleveland, and then the other series against Boston, Seattle, Toronto. I was going to say doesn't matter, but that's what I want to see as caveats in my 2.0 plan. And unfortunately, they got swept in New York, and now you kind of feel a sense of urgency to go take a series in Cleveland for you to get kind of back up in the morale standings.
So let me ask you this. You said you don't sense amongst the fans that the vibes are really, really bad. What were the vibes maybe in the locker room post-game? Because I do believe you were in the locker room at least for a little bit. You mentioned that Carlos Correa quote. At some point, I mean, the players are probably not going to come out and say it, but I mean, they got to be really tired of all the losing to the Yankees. I know last year, again, technically they won this, not technically, they did win the season series last year, but is there anything to, and I've said this before, and Rocco finally came around to this a couple of years ago about the playoff losing streak, where for the longest time he said, look, we have nothing to do with that. Well, then after they got swept, I think, by the Astros in the COVID year, he backpedaled a little bit and said, okay, well, at this point, we do have something to do with it because they had 5 or 6 of those losses. A part of me believes it doesn't matter who plays the Yankees, or who plays for the Yankees. It's not even necessarily the players that play for the Yankees. At this point, I think the uniform just messes with the Twins. They see the Yankee uniform and everything changes. I mean, Declan, this is a really good fielding team. They kick the ball around for 3 straight days. And just the Willie Castro thing can't happen. You can't lose track of outs. You just can't. So, I mean, I don't know. Is it as simple to say that the Yankees are just in their heads?
A little bit, but I mean, I don't know. I don't get the sense that they're in the Yankees are in their heads. I think they were more pissed. Like Joe Ryan was super short, which was very interesting because typically he's a pretty good interview and good bubbly guy, but he's also a very headstrong person. And when he loses or when his team loses, or if he feels he didn't give his team a chance to win, he's kind of down in the dumps. So that was a little interesting. I don't think the Yankees are in this team's head. No, I don't. But at the same time, they have to win games convincingly, or just win games in general against really good teams. And that's the part that stinks. And it's the fact that, you had really just uncharacteristically bad baseball with horrible fielding that derailed you. You couldn't hit the ball at all. Marcus Stroman yesterday was incredibly beatable. They weren't able to obviously beat him yesterday. And look, I know Schmidt almost threw a complete game shutout. He probably should have gotten the 9th. Come on, Aaron Boone, give him the 9th for God's sakes at that point. But but again, no, I don't think the Yankees are in their heads. If the Twins can just kind of figure out their own mess that they can get out of, and then they'll have to play a good team in October, you go for it. I really think last year's playoff run, and by playoff run, finally winning playoff games for the first time in 20 years, was a big exhale for this organization. There's always going to be the Yankee voodoo around them, but all it takes is, I've said, all it takes is just kicking their ass once in the playoffs for you to get over that.
Yep. Yeah, Declan, great point. I think the Twins-Yankees voodoo isn't completely over or behind the Twins until they beat them in the playoffs. I think winning some games in the regular season at more than a if you look at that 44 and 120 more than once out of every 5-6 games. I think winning a season series last year was a good start, but eventually you'll have to beat them in the playoffs. I just can't get over more than anything the one run in 3 games. Even a team that strikes out a lot and doesn't hit the ball a ton, sometimes on occasion, you'd like to think they would have at least put a few balls over the fence, or maybe a guy gets walked and he scores on a double in the gap. But also, Declan, I don't want to make excuses for the Twins. Let's be honest here. This Yankees team is really damn good.
Yeah, they're very good.
Yeah, and if they're healthy, they're going to be one of the favorites to win the World Series, and the pitching is very good. So, not trying to make excuses, but the facts kind of are the facts. And the Twins, anytime you play a team like this, and I'll put Boston in that category, that's the one that keeps coming to mind. When you get worked like this, that's the bar. You need to figure out over the next 2.5 months, if we're going to be a playoff team, and we think we are, speaking from a front office point of view, what can we do that's either at our disposal within the organization or players that will be available to us that we can bring in and help close that gap a little bit more. So, again, I think you can look at these series, and even though you got worked pretty bad, I think you can find some positives should you choose to go forward in a positive direction. That's a really clunky way of saying that, but you can learn a lot from these series.
Yeah, Twins will go to the Cleveland for a 3-game series. Extra Innings will also be there, so you can expect some content from Progressive Field, which will be super exciting. Very excited to be down there in Cleveland, so hit the like button, subscribe button. You'll find some Extra Innings content from the grounds against the Guardians. Byron Buxton, we'll wait and see what they want to do with him. I brought him up earlier. There has been no official announcement yet. Again, he's going to DH and play for the Saints to make sure he's good to go. I think after the disastrous situations in center field, that might be accelerated a little bit, but they also are certainly never going to rush a guy who has a chronic knee issue either, especially for a series in May. If this was, October, probably you rush him back, but we'll see when he joins the Twins. And yeah, there might be just a few interesting little roster moves that trickle in after he is activated, but we'll see when he kind of comes back to the Twins either tomorrow or on Saturday.
Have you made your maiden voyage to CHS Field here in the 2024 season? I know with all the Twins coverage, you got a lot going on there. Have you been to CHS yet?
I have not been to CHS this season yet. It is on my to-do list. It kind of stinks. I was looking forward to watching some Brooks Lee this year at St. Paul, and I don't know if we'll ever see Brooks Lee at St. Paul this year. So that part also stinks. But I should go down there in general. I do want to check out David Festa, who's been performing really well.
Yes.
In general, it's good to have your AAA ballpark literally down the road and not, a 6 a.m. flight away like it was with the Rochester Red Wings. So it is on my to-do list. You can go to saintsbaseball.com/tickets to get your tickets today. Shout out to the St. Paul Saints for helping sponsor programming here on SKOR North.
Yeah, here's a quick one for you. We'll call this what do they call it, an Easter egg or even a teaser. SKOR North Twin Show fans, SKOR North fans, you may have a chance to win a pretty good St. Paul Saints package here pretty soon coming up, where maybe Timberwolves pending, you might even be there, Declan.
That's right. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
So we'll see. We'll drop that in the next couple weeks. But regardless, you will be able to enter and have a chance to win a pretty cool deal we're doing with the St. Paul Saints. Your quick hitter, it's a very quick one.
Okay.
Can you name a damn Yankees song?
No, because musicals stink.
Well,
I hate musicals. I hate plays. I hate musicals. I hate everything that has to do with the theater. And I'm not crapping on your question. I don't know if I've ever expressed this to you, but I loathe the theater.
No, I actually love that you took it here because your response is actually great. Because when I said damn Yankees, I meant the 80s hair metal band Damn Yankees. But you thought I meant the musical, which is even better. Yeah.
No, honestly, all right, I'm going to age myself here. There's a band called the Damn Yankees from the
hair metal band from the 80s. Have you heard Can You Take, I don't want to sing it, but the Can You Take Me High Enough?
I don't think I have.
Damn Yankees. I'll send it to you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right. I just pulled it up on YouTube here. 35 million views on the YouTube machine.
Okay, so it's a known song. This is not some random Ross song that he likes to listen to shirtless with his cat.
Yeah, it's not me listening to a Less Than Jake song that only you, I, and 152 other people know. Yeah. So
True.
Well, that's your quick hitter. So, by the way, great rant. I couldn't agree with you more. Just don't share that with our big boss. Our big boss is a big theater and musical guy.
I think I have.
Be careful with that one.
I have.
Oh,
I have.
You're still employed.
Yep,
you're still employed. Wow.
Still employed. It does absolutely. Mackie and Judd are aware of it. In fact, there might be a write that down that Declan will have to go see a theater performance of some sort.
What was the one with the two people that everybody think are attractive and adorable?
That's so broad, Ross.
Gosling and what's her name? They had the big musical like within the last 5-6 years.
La La Land with Emma Stone?
La La Land. Yeah. How was that? Did you watch that?
I didn't watch that.
Okay.
Because it's a musical.
Everybody told me even if you don't like musicals, you'll like that. And my response was, well, I like Emma Stone.
Yeah, I like Emma Stone. And I like Ryan Gosling.
The baby goose. Baby goose.
No, I have not seen that. No, they do nothing for me. Everyone has their own thing, right? Everyone likes to do their own thing. But no, that one is not my thing.
I wish I will end with this. I bid you a very fair trip to Cleveland. I want to cross that park off my list. I've had a few chances to do it and just never pulled the trigger, so to speak. So I'm looking forward to your content from Cleveland this weekend and hopefully looking forward to the Twins. You know, if you win 2 out of 3, they'll shave a game off that first place lead. Maybe they'll win all 3, Declan. You never know.
That'd be nice. That'd be perfect. That will get you back out of this hole. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. This is SKOR North Extra Innings. Appreciate everyone listening and watching over the season. Yeah, we'll have some Extra Innings content from the grounds at Progressive Field against the Cleveland Guardians this weekend. Appreciate it. We'll be talking at you soon.